Hello, I think we are live. Yes, hello, welcome. Sorry, I'm running late. This was supposed to be at 8:30. Actually, I think I informed everyone that it will be at 8 o'clock, and then now it's 8:38. So I do apologize for the delay in doing this live webinar. Okay, so I'm just going to share a screen on the immigration questions we have this week. Just bear with me one moment. I don't really know where's the screen share. One second. Okay, where is it? Yeah, I think it's this one. Okay. I think that should be it. I don't know whether you can see the screen. Just 1 second. And I think I'm going to also share this with other groups as well. Just bear with me a moment. See if I can see. Okay, so I'm just going to share, just one moment. I'm just going to share. I can actually see. So share to a page. Okay, immigration. Okay, that's share. Okay, I think that's live in Pinoy UK immigration problems and solutions, and on my timeline. Okay, so few questions we have this week. First question is, I am on a spouse visa and would like to apply for indefinite leave to remain. What are the requirements? Can I use my old IELTS Test and Life in the UK test? Okay, so firstly, the requirements for a spouse visa, you need to make sure that because you are relying on a spouse visa, it assumes that when you apply, you are still with your partner. So you can't make an application for indefinitely to remain when you are separated with your spouse, or you can't provide documents using your spouse bank statements and pay slips. So for this indefinite leave to remain application, if you've had spouse visa, you need to make sure that you're able to provide documents in your joint names. Six different types of documents. So it would be bank statements. It can be individually addressed, so it may be your own bank statement and your spouse bank statements, but the addresses have to be the same. So bank statements, you've got bills, council tax as well, tax letters, HMRC letters, pay slips, those kind of documents, official documents you need to provide. So those are the kind of requirements. You don't need to comply with the financial requirement. If your spouse is not earning 18,600, it doesn't matter, because that's not it's not part of the requirement. The IELTS test and Life in the UK test, there's a lot of confusion on this, because the IELTS test expires after 2 years, and some of the English language tests as well expires after 2 years. So people are quite confused whether they can still use the same English test that they've submitted when they applied for renewing their spouse visa, even though it's already expired. And the position of this is that it's quite clear on the rules that if you used it to obtain or renew your visa before, then it will still be accepted. Okay, so you can still use your old IELTS test or your English language test, but there's a but. You have to make sure that the provider of the English language test that you have is actually still under the licensed providers from the Home Office. So if it's not one of those institutions that are licensed by the Home Office, and you can find this out on www.gov.uk, who are these licensed institutions, English institutions. If they're not, they're not in there and it's expired, then you must double check whether or not it's actually going to be accepted, because it's going to be a waste of your time and money to submit those documents, and then you get refused, because those two English language tests and life in the UK test are mandatory. Okay, so it's not something that, oh, I'll just submit it and hope for the best. If you don't comply exactly with the requirements, then you will be refused, automatically refused. Okay, so that's why double check it. If the provider, so I think it's Trinity, if it's still licensed by the Home Office and you've used it before with your renewal of your spouse visa, then you will be able to use it for the indefinite leave to remain application. Okay, so that's the answer, and I hope that's quite clear. There's many confusion in this, but the Home Office is quite clear that you can use it, provided that it's still the institution is currently licensed by the Home Office. The life in the UK test does not expire, so you can use it, even though you've taken it 8 years ago. You can still use it. Okay, so that's question one. Question two. I am an EEA national who has a permanent residence card. Can I naturalize as British? Yes, you can. So, provided that you have the permanent residence card and you have not committed a serious criminal offense, and you haven't been punished, well, I'm going to qualify that. Okay, so you can apply. If you are an EEA national, you can apply for naturalization, British naturalization, if you have permanent residence card. But when you naturalize as British, there is a requirement that you have a good character. And under the good character, there's a lot of things that you need to remember, and it's very strict, because it used to be that character, they weren't very strict before. Okay, so I think if you're talking about, let's say, I don't know on top of my head exactly when they introduced the strictness of the good character requirements, but in the past it used to be that even though you have say criminal record, it's not they didn't at that time strictly implement it, but recently they're very, very strict, so that even if you have permanent residence card, you're an EEA national, you have indefinite leave to remain, you can apply for British citizen. But if in the past you have entered the UK illegally, or you didn't have visa, but then you regularized your stay through some concessions under the rules or under the human rights. But if you have, within the 10 years, the past 10 years, you have entered the UK, you have had immigration offenses, then you fall under the good character requirement, and they scrutinize it, and it is most likely that you will be refused if you apply to naturalize as British. Similarly, if you have had court judgments, okay, so one client actually recently I applied on her behalf. She's an EEA national, not EEA national. She is a family member of an EEA national. She's had problem in the past because of relationship problems. She had problem with her husband, and they had court judgments because they didn't pay rent. So the rent that the court judgment was fairly recent, I think last year. So the government sent us a letter asking for proof whether she's made any payments, she's paid that debt off, or she has made arrangements or in the process of paying in installments. And they sent this letter, and they only gave us a week to provide these documents. And for some reason, unfortunately, my client couldn't confirm, couldn't pay this debt because some family problem. And so it looks like that she may be refused, and they probably return her documents to me, and it most likely will be refused because she falls under the good character. If to be British, you have to have a good character, and that means you don't have any court judgments, you don't have any criminal records. If you have criminal records, and then that's in the past, and it's very, very minor. I mean, even with her, she has she did have criminal record, but they didn't take any issue. They didn't make any inquiries on it, but they wanted to find out about the debt. Okay, so the debt is debt, and it has to be paid. So that's the requirement. Okay, so naturalization as British, they're quite straightforward applications, but the complexity lies on the fact that you have to comply with this good character requirement. Okay, so you have to have an exemplary record of good citizen, basically, for you to obtain the British citizenship. Okay, so I can't see questions at the moment, but I will look at my hello, Mary Grace. Okay. So the third question is, what happens to EEA citizens after Brexit? I'm not sure if there are any EEA citizens watching, but last week, I think, is it last week? Yeah, no, end of February, they made an announcement that apparently they have made an agreement. I have been following these developments because my husband is a Danish citizen, and so I want to find out what rules, agreements they have agreed with Europe. So on the 28th of February, apparently the agreement has been reached with Europe, European Commission, in terms of what will happen to EU citizens in the UK. So just to clarify the stages of Brexit, the first stage is the period. I know there was a referendum in June, I think 2016, where the British people have voted to leave the European Union, and so the government has introduced this plan to leave Europe. So they've decided that the leaving final date will be the 29th of March 2019. So that's the first stage. The first stage is before 29th of March 2019, because although there's been the decision to leave Europe, but it's not really finalized. There has to be a cutoff date, and the cutoff date is 29th of March 2019. So at the moment, because we're not there yet, everything is the same. So your rights, EEA national and their family members, their rights in the UK remain the same. So no changes. You don't have to do anything. If you want to apply for a registration certificate, you can do that. If you want to apply for residence card and or apply for your family members to join you to come to the UK, you can do that. And the same rules apply. All the immigration rules, EEA regulations, they're still the same. Nothing's changed. Okay. So that's the first stage. The second stage is after 29th of March 2019, and what is called the implementation period, because when they finally leave in March 2019, there will be a lot of changes. They have to do a lot of things. These are to do with administration, what will happen with the law, and so on. So they can't just say, okay, the law changes on that day. So that's why they have this implementation, and it's 2 years implementation period. Okay, and then the stage 3 will be what happened after, what happens to EU nationals after the implementation period, which is in 2021. Okay, so first stage we've already discussed. Okay, so 2019, that's fine. Everything everything is the same. But this is what will happen. Okay, just bear with me. I'm just reading what the agreement was. But this agreement is not really finalized, because I don't think they included it in the withdrawal agreement. This is the final agreement that confirms that this is actually what's going to happen with the EU citizens in the UK. But what they have agreed, I think it's in principle, is that if EU citizens have been living continuously in the UK for 5 years by 2019, in March 2019, then they will obtain what is called settled status. So it's equivalent to indefinite leave to remain. So they have settled status. If by that time, if by 2019 they have not reached the 5-year status, then they can wait. After that, they can add for a couple of years, or if it's a year, I think if it's within the implementation period, then they can apply also for settled status. And their family members who have joined them by 2019 will also be able to apply for settled status. So, for example, you will, at the moment, you're three years, let's say, yeah, 3 years, yeah. So at the moment, let's say you've been here 2 years, and by 2019 you're only 4 years. You can't apply for settled status because you haven't lived continuously for 5 years. But if in 2020 you will have lived here for 5 years, then you'll be able to apply for settled status, and your family members will also be able to apply for settled status. Okay, and it says here, close family members will be able to join EU citizens after exit, where the relationship existed on March 29th, on 29th of March 2019. So it's saying that if you get married, I think this is my interpretation of this paragraph. If you've gotten married in, say, 2018, okay, then you can apply for your wife or your spouse to join you in the UK. So it says here, even as long as, so you can invite your family to join you, as long as you can prove that your relationship, you're married, your children was born before the 29th of March 2019. Okay, so that's quite generous, I must say. Okay, then what happens after the UK has left on the 29th of March? Because as I said, that's the implementation period, that's the final date of leaving the European Union, and then there's 2 years of implementation period. So what happens during the implementation period? So it says here that during the implementation period, you can then you can come if you're, let's say, Italian, Latvian, you can come to the UK after between 29th of March 2019, up to 2 years. You can come as you wish, you study, visit, and so on. No visa, apparently. But if you're planning to stay for more than 3 months, then you will need to register with the Home Office. Now, no one really knows what the requirements are for registering with the Home Office if you decide during that period, during the implementation period, if you decide to stay for more than 3 months. No one knows. Okay, so we are still, everyone is looking for the details, and I don't think it will be published. Probably it will be published later this year, or even next year. I would think so. Okay, so here, after the implementation period, now this is just a proposal on the Home Office. There is really nothing, no final confirmation of what really happens after the implementation period. So as far as we know of what happens, we know what the position is up to the 29th of March 2019, what happens to those EU citizens who are already in the UK, have established working life, they're student, they're job seeker, they're working or self-sufficient, they're here. we know what will happen to them. They can apply if they've already been here by that date for 5 years, living continuously. They can apply for settled status. If they have not reached the 5-year status, then I think provided that it, within the 2-year implementation period, they reach that 5 years residency, then they can apply for settled status. But we don't know what actually happens after the implementation period, and it is just a proposal because it relies on the European, I think Commission, I may be wrong, European Commission, to agree on what will happen to the British citizens in the respective countries. Okay, so it's an agreement. No one knows yet. But I'm just going to read it here. Just one moment. Yes, see, it says here, after the implementation period ends, so which is after 2021, EU citizens who arrive during that period can be joined by family members under arrangements that will be on a par with the arrangements applying to British citizens who want to be joined by a non-British family member. So this, whatever happens after the implementation period, whatever rights that the UK government will give to EU citizens after the implementation period will rely heavily on what will be the agreement, what will be agreed with the European, European countries, Europe, treatment to British citizens who wants to be joined by non-British family member. Okay, so we're just really relying, because we don't know, this is just a proposal. And also, if you are a EU citizen who live in Europe, but you travel to work in the UK during the implementation period, so we're talking about after 2019, in between 2019 and 2021, if you live in Europe but you have work, you need to get to the UK to work, then you will need to apply for permission to continue doing this after the period ends. So I think during the implementation period it's fine, but I think if you want to continue after the implementation period, then you need a permission. So I think after 2021, then there will be a different set of rules for European citizens who want to come to the UK to study, to work. And depending on what Europe agrees with the treatment of the British citizens in Europe, then that's how the UK government would, I think they would mirror it, I think, but no one knows yet. But after 2021 is going to be strict. There's definitely going to be an agreement. There's going to be there's going to be rules that need to be followed by European citizens, and it will be under UK law. Okay, so just 1 minute. I'm just going to check if there are any. Okay. Oh, okay. So that's it. That's it, guys. These are just the European EEA questions and indefinite leave to remain. I think next week I'm going to do illegal immigration and rights and duties of parents who are overstaying in the UK. Okay. Hopefully that's useful for you guys. And if you have any questions, just message me or leave a message on the group, and I'll pick them up and I will answer them. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks. Bye. Bye. Bye.